the original plan for the front panel was to use this little mini front panel that's made by Don Caprio, and lots of wires going to the switches. As luck would have it though, within the last month or so, Jerry Walker of JM Precision, who made the CPU card, has come up with this reproduction MITS front panel board, which is great. So we can now do a proper front panel without loads and loads of wires, although to be fair we've still got about I think it's 62 wires. There's a bank of them up here and there's another bank along the top, so still going to be quite a few wires, but might be a little bit easier to solder up. Right, before we do anything with this board, we really need to mark out the front panel, otherwise we're going to have a lot of problems in the long run. This is my front panel. What I've just show you a good look at it. What I've done initially, I've looked at quite a few drawings, trying to figure out where everything sits on the panel, in relation sort of top and bottom, side to side. It turns out if you position this board dead central in your panel, that seems to pretty much get you in the right place. So what I did, I got it in the middle, taped it down, made a few felt tip marks through the switch holes, and then from that I was able to draw this grid that you see here. After that I taped it back down again over the top, and then I went through the holes with a scriber. So literally I just lined all this up again and then wound the scriber around in the holes. Once I've done that, I've centre punched the holes, so I've got really good positioning for my drill bit. There are some problems because not all of this panel lines up. If you look at the overlay I've got here, you're all right on, the ones here aren't too bad, they all line up, but if you look at the bottom ones, you can get those from where you've gone through with the scriber, so they're not too much of a problem. These top ones for the LEDs, very few of them line up with anything. I think these two line up with those two, and that's about it. these two are out on their own, and those two line up with those two, but you've still got to find out where they are. The only way I found of doing it, they're all on the same line, so that's not a problem. So what I did, I laid it back down again, and what I did, I just got a pin, and I've literally just went through the LED holes with the pin and wound it round a few times to get the positioning of the LEDs. And then once I did that, I drew on these extra marks here, which are for the other LEDs, and you can probably see I've marked each where I've got to drill the hole. I've marked with this little arrow just in case I get a bit carried away and start drilling holes where I shouldn't be. So that's how I did that. Right, what I've got to do now is drill rather a lot of holes. So I'll get those drilled and put a few bits in here, and we'll come back and have a look at it. Right, I've drilled the holes, all 61 of them. Took quite a bit of time actually. Popped switches in. This row, well, apart from that one, is just on off. These are all momentary, and these central ones are just on offs. There's a little token LED in the end there. What I did is I put the switches in one at a time, and then wiggled the switch about until it fitted through the PCB. So if I turn it over, hopefully you might better just see. Probably you can just see that the switches are just poking through the printed circuit board. We'll need to solder those a bit later on, but it's sort of fairly critical at this stage to get everything in the right place. Obviously there's no point soldering all the switches in and they weren't through the holes in the panel, so that should be all ready to go. What I'll do now, I'll put some components on the printed circuit board and we'll come back and see how we go from there. Right, I've got most of the components on here now, apart from the LEDs and the switches. Still got to put the regulator on this end. It's surprising actually, it looks quite sparse this board, but there's a lot of components on there. It takes quite a while. I think it doesn't help much that I've used green resistors and they're sort of fading into the distance. Got a few notes. Important to note that this board it's a sort of re-engineered board. It's very, very similar to the original, but there are some alterations or improvements in a lot of ways. Just so everything matches up, SC13 was one of the decoupling capacitors. On the original silk screen it was mislabeled C according to the notes, and it was down here. It's not here at all on this particular board. In fact, this capacitor here, which I think was labelled SCB on the original silk screen, is actually now labelled SC13, so that's where SC13 is now. The other thing is this capacitor here, C12, it was originally above C13, but it doesn't matter, you know, it's in the right place. It's only a decoupling capacitor anyway, so that's one other thing that's changed. The other thing you need to be a bit careful of, this resistor here, which is actually R34, is labelled R21 on the board. I've checked that with the circuits, so that's definitely R34, so just be a little bit careful with that one. The other thing is that the original board, well, the manual mentions 2 loose wire links which sort of go across here. It's a little one around one of these ICs. I think it might be that one. They're engineered into this board. There were, I think, as far as I can tell, there were actually 3 links in total. But they've all been engineered in, so don't need to worry about that. There's also some errata on this board as well. C7 and C8 have both been changed. C7's now 0.01 microfarad and C8's now 0.1 microfarad. These are meant to improve the deposit circuitry for the 4K dynamic RAM board, but they say even if you're not using that board, then change the values anyway, so I've done that. They've already fixed that in the manual, but if you look at the schematics, it's still wrong on those, so that sort of clears up that confusion. I think that's all the notes. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to mount this on top of the switches, solder the switches on, and sort the LEDs out. With the LEDs, what I think I'll do is, I've just popped that one in loose at the moment. I'll pop them all in loose, making sure they're the right way round. Drop this lot down onto the switches, and then push the LED sort of forward till it locates in its hole on the front panel, and that'll get the height right. Right, so I'll sort those bits out and then we'll come back and have a look. Right, I've got all the LEDs and switches in now. A little bit of a closer look. There you go. Everything seemed to work out okay. Just pressing the LEDs down till they sat level. It's got all the heights right. So that was reasonably successful. What I did with the LEDs, just to sort of check the polarity, these 2 little buffer chips here actually drive the data bus LEDs and one of the ones over here, and if you just put those in and power it up, just push it in a little bit so you can see those LEDs just come on. If you put the other IC in, these ones will come on as well. So that's a quick way of just checking the LED polarity. So what I did, I just sort of bent the LED legs apart and then wedged them in through plates. The other ones just need a 5 volt, so you pick up a 5 volt from somewhere and you can just sort of work your way along. See that one lighting up there, and that one there, and a bit further down. There you go. That's an easy way of checking the LEDs before you solder them in. Otherwise, if you get them around the wrong way, you're going to have to take them out again. One thing I did discover while I was doing it, just have the power off there, was this socket here, or lead through I should say, was labelled 80, which is exactly the same as one along here which is labelled 80 as well. Now that's the real 80. This one here that was labelled 80 is actually 85, so that's one to watch for. Got the voltage regulator on there, of course. The only other thing I did do is that the data LEDs, because they're driven off these buffers and they're sort of it's a sync current through this rather than a source current, these LEDs will be much brighter than the other ones. So the vast majority of the LEDs, I put 1000 millicandle ones in, and the database ones, data bus ones I should say, I put 400s in, so it should balance the light level out. It's not really necessary, but you know, since I had the LEDs, I thought I'll stick them in anyway. The only thing left to do now is to stick all these wires in down the side and along the top here. The manual says stick 3 foot of wire in each one, which I think is probably a bit excessive, so I'll measure them out a little bit. Right, I think what I'll do, wrap this video up now, and then on the next one we'll do the testing, and I'll show you the cabling I put on here. So that'll do it for this one, and I shall see you next time.